Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, ma ba'd. We continue our weekly lessons, and today we're going to talk about, it's a continuation of last week's lesson, which is of course dealing with rulers. And today we will talk about a very complex issue that actually it is one of the matters that many people did not understand, and there's a lot of misconceptions and confusion with regards to that. Not only that, it's actually one of the first bid'ah, one of the first innovations or misconceptions or deviation that happened and it took place in Islam, which is ruling by other than Allah's rule, or applying Allah's rule or not applying Allah's rule. Allah Azza wa Jal في القرآن قال في سورة المائدة ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون. And who doesn't apply Allah's rule, then he is, and they are the kafirun, they are the disbelievers. And in the same surah, Allah Azza wa Jal قال ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الفاسقون. And who doesn't apply Allah's rule, then he is a fasiq. Fasiq is a wrongdoer, evildoer. And in another ayah, he said ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الظالمون. And who doesn't apply Allah's rule, then he is a transgressor. He is a transgressor. No doubt, Allah Azza wa Jal, when He sent His revelation down and He created us and He made duties, He assigned duties to us. And the first duty, of course, is that we worship Allah Azza wa Jal, nothing but Allah. And also at the same time, sorry, is my voice okay? Or there's a printer going on, sorry. Okay. And so when Allah assigned to us duties, He gave us a guide to life. And no doubt that Allah did not leave us like this. He presented to us the Sharia, and from the Sharia, some applications should be done, rules. So when we deal with one another, we deal in a justful way and in a fair way. And there are many rules in Islam, as you know. Many rules, ruling with politics, ruling with social issues, ruling with economics, ruling with business, ruling with judicial issues, punishments, money, everything. SubhanAllah, this is the beauty of Islam, is that it is holistic, it's all together, full. And so we understand that since that the revelation came from Allah and Allah Almighty is all perfect, then His ruling is all perfect. Anybody who doubts that Allah's rule is not perfect or doesn't fit today, or doesn't fit the environment that we're in, then this is not a Muslim. You cannot be a Muslim. Because why? Because Allah is the all perfect one. And He is perfect, His ruling is perfect. So a Muslim should not have a doubt in that matter. The second thing is that there are some things that Allah Azza wa Jal did not talk about or did not assign to us. Things that are, let's say, modern. I'll give you one example. Traffic rules. Traffic rules is something that is modern. Allah Azza wa Jal did not talk to us about traffic and how to drive a car and what is a violation and what is the speed limit, or maybe medical rules, operation, what medicine to give, how to give it, to who to give it, all these things. This is not applied and not mentioned in Islam, but we have general rules, which are, of course, don't be corrupt, don't lie, be fair to everyone, etc. And then there are some situations where Allah has specified, for example, in marriage, in applying religion, in punishment in some cases, like the thief, the adulterer, and other issues too. Now, when it comes to these rules, Allah expects us to apply it. And these rules are not only limited to rulers. No. If you see in the ayah that I mentioned, He said, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ. Whoever doesn't apply Allah's rule, then he is from the ظالمون, كافرون, فاسقون. One group of people, and they are from the Muslim Ummah, but they are deviants. They applied this in its apparent meaning. What do I mean by apparent meaning? They said anybody who doesn't apply any rule of Allah, then he is as the ayah mentions, then they are kafirun. They're out of the folds of Islam. And this is false. This is, like I said, one of the deviants, the first deviants that happened in Islam. And this is why Uthman radiallahu anh got killed. And this is what happened between the fitna between Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhum ajma'in. Not the fitna between Uthman and Ali, but I mean the fitna that happened at Ali's time. Ali's khilafah, when the Sahaba fought. It was all because of the rulings. And of course, they did ijtihad. Ijtihad, they judged by their own analysis, and they took a decision, and they are rewarded for it, inshallah, because they are the Sahaba, and they are the best of people in this ummah. Now, the deviant that happened is like I mentioned, they started applying, a group of people started applying this ayah apparently, in its apparent meaning. Meaning anybody that doesn't apply Allah's rule, then he is, one second. It's okay. So anybody who doesn't apply Allah's ruling, then he is not a Muslim. And this is what they told Uthman radiallahu anhu. They said, you are not a Muslim because you didn't completely apply Islam. And of course, Uthman radiallahu anhu applied Islam correctly, but they have a false understanding. And so they misjudged him and they did what they did to him. Now, when it comes to applying Allah's rule, like I said, is it only upon the rulers? The answer is no. The ayah is general. So anybody, me, you guys, any person on this earth and is a Muslim is obligated to apply Allah's rule. So for example, a man in his family household, he is not fair with his children. That means he didn't apply Allah's rule. Or a CEO in a company, he's taking bribery. He didn't apply Allah's rule. Or a mother who is not wearing, a female who is not wearing a hijab. She didn't apply Allah's rule. So this ayah applies on everyone. Everyone should apply Allah's rule. طيب, the question is, if I don't apply Allah's rule, am I out of the folds of Islam? The answer is, it depends. Depends on what? Depends on what you believe. And I'll give you an example. There are three scenarios. The first one is that I don't apply Allah's rule out of less iman. I'm not a good Muslim. I am greedy. I want to deal with riba. I want more money. I want to drink alcohol. I want to hurt people, whatever. So I don't apply Allah's rule because I'm greedy or because of less iman. Then you are not a kafir. What are you? You are maybe a zalim or a fasiq. We apply the second or the third option. طيب, what if someone doesn't apply Allah's rule and apply other than Allah's rule, whether he's a ruler or anybody, anybody, I'm talking general, and he says Allah's rule and my rule same, equal, no difference, khalas, as long as I am fair to everyone, that's it. He is not a Muslim. Why? Because he made his rule and Allah's rule equal, and we're not equal to Allah. Not by status, not by rank, not by existence, not by rule. Definitely we are limited and our rules are limited. And brothers and sisters, I personally, I worked closely with governance in corporates. What do governments do? We work in policies. So basically we write rules. We write policies and procedures, all that stuff. And so I have to admit, it is one of the most difficult jobs to create a policy that doesn't have gaps or mistakes. Every policy, even in the countries today, if they write policy or law, they change it, keep changing. Why? Because it's man-made, it's limited. So it's imperfect, and we have to admit that. But Allah's rule is perfect, fits all times. طيب, so if I say it's equal, I'm not a Muslim, because Allah's rule is definitely above. Like, what if I say my rule is above Allah's rule? Also, definitely nobody doubts this. He's not a Muslim because you've made your rule over Allah's rule. In belief, I'm saying in belief, I believe that my rule is better than Allah's rule. Or I believe Allah's rule is not fitting for today. today it's modern and everything is open. So Allah's rule is not fitting. It's not fair for us. طبعا هذا كافر. Why? Like I told you, because he had underestimated Allah's rulings. طيب, so we have the first part. What I mentioned to you is that I'm not applying Allah's rule because of greed, because of pressure, because of ignorance, because of anything else. Then he is not a kafir. He is a Muslim, but with regards to his situation, he could be a fasiq, he could be a zalim, he could be an ignorant. As a matter of fact, this interpretation has been interpreted from the time of the Sahaba. The time of the Sahaba, Ibn Abbas, he said, إنه, when he read the ayah, ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون قال هذا كفر دون كفر. This is kufr, but without the kufr that we know. And as you gentlemen, brothers and sisters we explained in previous durus and lessons, we said that kufr is divided. It's not only one. We said kufr, there is kufr asghar, kufr akbar. And we said that there is major kufr and less kufr. And we explained a lot of these things. In many hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, and also in the ayat, sometimes Allah says kufr, or kafirun, or mushrikun, or anything like that. And he means other than the kufr that takes you out of the folds of Islam. Like in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ قال, من حلف بغير الله فقد أشرك. Whoever swears by other than Allah, then he has committed polytheism. Which polytheism? Major means anybody who swears by other than Allah, he's out of the folds of Islam. He says, no, we have to elaborate. We have to understand the context. How did the Sahaba apply it and understand this hadith? We say, this is lesser shirk. And so we don't apply that. Now, like I said, many people have fallen into a lot of deviation because of this. And to be honest, what I have witnessed is because of hate and ignorance and following desires. Why do I say that? Because they want to kick people out of Islam, and they apply this ayah on rulers and governments and other people. They say anybody who doesn't apply 100% Allah's rule, he's out of the folds of Islam. And this is not true. As a matter of fact, logically, it cannot be. How? Today, we Muslims, I ask you now, applying Islam individually, have you done it 100%? The answer is no. Nobody has applied Islam 100%. Today, I'm talking. Not Sahaba time, our time. Nobody. We have mistakes and we have shortfalls, and we are not applying Allah's rule on ourselves, not on anybody else, on ourselves completely. So let alone states and governments and countries and all that. Have they applied Allah's rule 100%? The answer is no. And so this is the situation we are sitting in. It doesn't mean that we are not Muslim, but we have shortfalls and we have sins and we have all that. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ in many ahadith, and I mentioned this in the previous dars, is that he said that there will be people who might be corrupt. There will be people who are unjust and will not follow the sunnah and will not apply Allah's rule, but we obey them. We obey them because of the greater good, And the concept of applying or harm reduction and seeking the greater good and the lesser harm is applied in Islam in many, many cases. As a matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ knew who were the munafiqeen. Sahih? He knew them by name, each one of them in Medina. These guys are munafiqeen. Why didn't he kill them? Why didn't he punish them? Why didn't he expose them? The answer is because there was harm in doing that. So he let them. So there is harm reduction in Islam, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ, the logic behind why should we obey an unjust ruler or maybe a government that doesn't apply Allah's rule? Because of the greater good. And this has been applied since the time of the Sahaba until today by Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Nobody defied this except that for the Khawarij or the people who don't see allegiance to the Muslim Jama'ah. Now comes to another issue that sometimes people or governments or states will state or will say that this is the ruling, and they will change religion. They will change religion. What does changing religion mean? Meaning yastahillun. يستحلون means, for example, if somebody says خمر is not haram, هذا يسمونه استحلال or جحود, meaning changing what is haram to halal and changing what is halal to haram, changing, vice versa. And on clear-cut matters that are mentioned clearly in the Quran or the Sunnah, clear-cut, we say this is kufr. Why? Because you are accusing the Quran of being false. How? طيب, if Allah Azza wa Jal said about, for example, the khamr, رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه. Khamr is rich, something that is filthy, toxic. فاجتنبوه. اجتنبوه, what does it mean? It's worse, it's يعني greater than haram. Because Allah here is saying اجتنبوه means stay far away, and anything that leads to it also stay far away from it. That's how dangerous khamr is. So one guy comes and says, no, khamr is not haram. And I've personally met people like them. I don't know what's their logic. Maybe they don't have a logic. But they say khamr is not haram. Allah did not say haram. He said ijtanibu. Says maybe you don't know Arabic then. So about this, you have accused the Quran of falsehood. And you have defied the Quran. This is by ijma' kufr. Kufr. طيب, if somebody does an act, might indicate that he is doing istihlal, the one that I just explained, or might not. We don't know. Ambiguous. What do? Al-asl fil muslimin, that they are Muslimin. In one hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال that you obey the rulers, the Muslim rulers, except if you see kufr bawah. Kufr bawah means clear-cut kufr from them that two people will not dispute. So if a matter is ambiguous, you cannot say this is kufr. You have to stay back, because labeling someone as a kafir is one of the gravest sins that you can do. And the Prophet ﷺ in one hadith said, if a Muslim says to his brother, Ya kafir, this word, the punishment of that word, either will fall on him or on you. So people need to be very careful with these labeling things. Not only that, you know that if you judge someone out of the folds of Islam, then there's also, practical rulings that need to apply. Like, for example, he cannot get married to a Muslim. He will not be buried with the Muslimin. He will not inherit. You will not take the Shahada from him. You do not pray after him, before him. Many other rulings. So this is an extremely delicate matter. As a matter of fact, many of the scholars, they don't talk about takfir. They take it to the judge. A judge in court decides on this, because there's a lot of rights. It's a very complex issue. And so we laymen, we don't say this. Now I mentioned something about the act. If it's ambiguous, we don't know. Is he doing istihlal, or is he just out of greed, he's applying something? Then we return it to the asl. The asl is that he is a Muslim, we don't judge. For example, if somebody in a country permits alcohol, okay, and this is, unfortunately, we say, Allah al-Musta'an, to Allah we seek refuge, it is spread everywhere. As a matter of fact, I think all Muslim countries except Saudi, there's alcohol selling everywhere. طيب, when he permits an alcohol, does that mean he is mustahil? The answer is no. The answer is no. Unless he says it. He said, khamr is not haram in Islam. Then he is mustahil. And I don't want to mention names because it's a delicate matter, but there has been previous, they're not alive anymore, there are previous rulers that they actually said that. And the scholars did not shy away from saying this guy is not a Muslim. He's not a Muslim. But today, our rulers that are existing today, the Muslim ones that we know, they are Muslimin, even though that they have some shortfalls or some sins, or they're permitting some sins, like I said, riba, alcohol, or music, or anything like that. No doubt it's a sin, and it hurts our feelings, and it's hurting us even, that this is exaggerate in our rulings and judgments. We say, may Allah guide them, and we stay away from these munkarat, and if we can, we change it. If we can. If we cannot, we do what? Sabr. We do sabr, what to do. And of course, we protect ourselves and children from things. Now, this is a very ambiguous or very complex matter, to be honest, because it's about politics. And people need to first, always stick to the big scholars and not listen to political news and all that media to place these very critical judgments on people. Wallah al-musta'an, and may Allah guide us all and protect us from all these fitans and misconceptions. نكتفي, we'll conclude here, inshallah. If you guys have any questions, brothers and sisters, please feel free to ask.
Jazakumullah khair.
وإياكم دكتور.
Any questions from brothers in masjid? Brother Imtiaz has one question.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Yeah, so not to judge anyone, we should not judge anyone. That's what I understand from here. So considering this earthquake which we see in Turkey, right, should we see it as a punishment or a test from Allah? And what is the learning we should see from it?
See, when these things happen, no doubt it is from Allah. We believe that it is from Allah. It can be a punishment, and it can be a test, a calamity. And it can be both. It can be a test for the good people, and it can be a punishment for the bad people. And Allah does what He wills. But what we have to learn from this is two things. Number one is an action, which is, of course, we have to rush to help these people. They are our brothers and sisters, and they need our help. And that's the first thing we need to do. And we have to help them with dua and with money if we can. And if you have reliable, trusted channels, please try your best to give them what you can, because we've seen it's devastating what happened. They're really, really in need of help. And also, if there are some people who are working in charitable organizations who can go there and help them by hand, also you can go there. Please do so, and may Allah reward you for that. The second thing is that we have to always remember this calamity can happen to us. And so help your brothers, and then remember yourself, dear brothers and sisters. And may Allah protect you. I know in Japan, it has a history of earthquakes. So please always do dua that Allah protects you and protects your children and protects your assets and your loved ones from all these calamities. And remember that you always seek refuge to Allah and stay away from sin, because you never know. Wallahi, and subhanAllah, I've seen the pictures. Maybe yesterday he had a home and he had a family, and the next day he has no home and he has no family. This is, may Allah keep them firm on their sanity and on their deen. So these are the two things that we should learn from this. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah.
Wa iyyakum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. So
Wassalam.
Allah's ruling, right? We have Allah's ruling. We get from Quran and also from the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So our scenario may not match 100%, but we get the derivings from that and try to apply. So it may not 100% match, but we investigate and try to match. So how it may not 100%, right? That's my.
You mean in Japan? You mean in Japan or
in general, our life and other things, right? The scenario, for example, whatever the Seerah scenario and our scenario, right? We can derive something and we try to apply. So
absolutely,
that scenario may not be 100%, but it may replicate to some extent.
And yes, if you apply it in the correct way and you understand the scenario in the correct way, then absolutely the Seerah is a wonderful guide to life. And the Prophet ﷺ lived in a country that is non-Muslim and lived in a country that is Muslim, lived in a country where he was strong and lived in a situation where he was very weak. And we see how he dealt with things. He dealt with the enemies, he dealt with his allies, he dealt with many things. And yes, you're absolutely right. We derive it from the Seerah. Allahu a'lam.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wassalam.
My question is, when we notice a friend or a colleague who is not applying Allah's rules 100%, when we notice their mistakes, how consistent or how direct should we be in correcting that person or giving dawah about his mistakes? Because there's a sensitivity issue, right? He might be a little bit defensive. How should our approach be in giving dawah or correcting his mistakes in this scenario?
Okay, so let's connect what the previous brother said about Sirah and this one. See, this is a very gray area. In one instance, we see the hadith, we see the Sirah, in the Sirah, how the Prophet ﷺ used to advise the Sahaba. In some instances, he used to be very harsh and straightforward, clear, to the face. And in other situations, he would be very gentle and subtle and kind. You have to be the judge on the situation. When it comes to da'wah, it is more of an art than science. What do I mean? You have to apply wisdom. You have to choose the right words in the right time for the right person. In some cases, you have to be, like I said, harsh. In other cases, you have to be gentle. Al-asl, the beginning or by default, you have to be gentle and nice and merciful. Also, you have to be patient. This is one of the biggest mistakes we do, many people fall into when you see something that is wrong. What do we feel? Because of our heart and our emotions, we expect that this wrongdoing should change now, instant. So if I see someone who's smoking, I say, why are you smoking? Haram? Yalla. In my head, I expect him to change, to stop smoking tomorrow. That doesn't happen, brothers and sisters. You have to be very gentle. You have to be very patient, and sometimes let it go. For example, build a channel of communication between you and that person, a strong channel, before you give him the nasiha. Do preparations. For example, invite him to your house, be nice to him, buy him a gift, and don't give him nasiha, just leave it like that. Next day, other day, 3 days, 4 days, then come and talk to him. And then if you see the situation is correct, yeah, I saw this, you are doing so and so. And wallahi, the Prophet ﷺ said so and so, and this is haram, and I care about you, and so on and so on. This, I am almost 100% sure that he will not reject your nasiha. At least he will respect it. If he takes it or not, that's from Allah, right? We don't expect anybody to, the guidance is from Allah, not from us. We give the nasiha and that's it. Don't wait for the results. The results is from Allah. So this is what I have to say, Wallahu a'lam. And it's a very, like I said, thin line. You have to be very careful, very gentle. Sometimes you can seem like the most evil person while you're giving nasiha. And sometimes you can seem like you're the hero. You have to be very careful.
Jazakallah khair.
Wa iyaakum, Sheikh.
Any questions from the participants online? Sisters or any other brothers? I think no. So here also. Alhamdulillah, we are fine. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much. You are constant and continuous. That's for us for every week.
It's an honor, really. You give me this opportunity to share some benefits with you, brothers and sisters. And inshallah, one day we get to meet in person.
Yeah, that's what I was about to tell. Please plan to visit Japan as early as possible. We are looking forward, and if possible, this Ramadan. Even
oh, that'll be nice. Ramadan in Japan. Have sushi for iftar.
Okay, inshallah.
Allah yabarak fikum.
Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. السلام عليكم.
Salam.